We're back.
Hey.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. If you can hear us, comment there. I'm just roll through that intro one more time because this is what's going to be on YouTube for the ever.
Yes.
But before I get started, let's see.
Yes, tell us now, give us some feedback.
Before we do this whole thing again.
Boy, thank you for your patience, everybody.
Near as I could tell, it was YouTube.
Yeah. Let's make sure that we're doing okay over here.
Come on. Out of sync.
You're back, all good, all good?
All good, please. We hear you.
Okay.
But do we sound, are our lips moving at the same time as we're saying?
It says out of sync.
Who said?
Maybe it's just for some people.
How's that possible? Nah, good now.
Everyone seems to be saying good.
All good. Sound is good. All right.
All right, I think we should just get started, but we do the intro, and if anything does come up, just let us know in the chat.
Sounds good.
Let's get to work.
Wow. Okay, working great. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm just gonna do this intro again, so those who are not live probably have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
All right, welcome back to another exciting episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. As always, I am David Farkas. I'm joined by Josh Lehrer.
Hey everybody, again.
Over there, we've got Jose Rivera producing the show.
Oh, hello.
Super deja vu-y right now.
I know, right? So weird, what's happening?
All right. We came at you about 2 weeks ago talking about this. We took a first look at the new Leica SL3 mirrorless camera.
Yes.
And Josh, why was that different?
Why was that different? Because it's the first time we've ever done a live stream on a product launch day. That was on Thursday, March 7th. We worked all day and then came to the studio at night and brought you the news of this exciting and highly anticipated new camera.
Indeed.
In those last 2 weeks, we have received a lot more questions. We've done a lot more testing.
Yes, we have.
Gotten a lot of feedback. And so now, of course, it is time for a closer look at the SL3 and to take more questions and hopefully address some of the burning questions that are out there about the camera. So,
absolutely. Yeah, we've done lots and lots of testing in the meantime. Kind of gathered all those questions, all those concerns, and we put a lot of the main things to the test.
Yes.
I think you're going to want to stick around and see. We've got a whole slew of testing between the SL3, the SL2, the SL2S, to see how that actual performance
yes. But
manifests.
before we get into all of that, if you are not familiar with the SL3 or if you forget half the stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago, David, can you give us a brief recap about what's new with the SL3 and why we should be excited about it? Brief.
Okay. I think headlining, we've got a new sensor. It is a 60 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor that has a few advantages over the 47 megapixel sensor in the SL2. We've got this much higher ISO performance, which we'll actually show you guys a little later, because it is a BSI sensor versus a traditional CMOS. So we're actually getting the ISO performance roughly of an SL2S with more pixels even than an SL2, which is great. It's like the best of both worlds combined. We've also got 15 stops to dynamic range. This should be nothing new if you have an M11, M11P. This sensor is what you're used to. We've been blown away by it in the M11 and then in the Q3 and now in the SL3. Okay, but also like the Q3, the SL3 has the advantage of hybrid autofocus. So we've got the accuracy of contrast detect, plus the speed of phase detect, plus the intelligence of object or depth-based object detection. So sort of AI-ish type of detection for people and pets and animals, and it works remarkably well. And we also have, answering a lot of people's requests, there are some physical changes on this body. And we can cut to a quick overhead here, and I'll show you.
There we go.
So we've got a smaller body. It is 5.2 millimeters narrower from lug to lug, and it is 3 millimeters shorter from shoulder to bottom. It is also 70 grams lighter because Leica opted to use magnesium construction rather than aluminum. So that's going to save a lot of weight. It's also a lighter weight shutter mechanism, lighter weight IBIS mechanism. And in addition, we also have a frequently requested feature here, which is a flip out screen, a tilting screen, while still retaining IP54 weather sealing and robust build. And we've got an extra programmable dial on the top, so all the exposure controls are easily at hand. That is the biggest changes. We also have the Maestro 4 processor with 8 gigabytes of buffer memory, which is enormous. We've got a compact flash Express Type B card for massive and fast storage, much upgraded USB and Wi-Fi connectivity, so you can offload pictures in a flash, no pun intended. And
UI.
And of course, we have an entirely redesigned from the ground up user interface with full touch compatibility and touchable buttons, flippable UI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So a lot.
There's the brief overview.
Obviously, if you want to get more into that, you can watch our last episode from March 7th, where we really dove into the new features and improvements on the SL3 over at the SL2. But that's a quick recap for you.
And there is links.
Yes.
By the by.
Yes.
In the description, we have a link to our first look video. And I have a link to, I did a shorter form. If you don't want to watch us for 2 hours, I don't understand why. But if you just want to watch me for 12 minutes talking about the camera, I have a link for that video as well, going over all the headlining features in a little bit more depth than I went through here in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's also a link to the Reddit forum article where there's even more information.
There's no shortage of information about the SL3.
No shortage of information.
So I think what we should do is first we should answer some of the questions that we received in the prior 2 weeks.
Sure.
Do some of that. Then we'll get into some of the testing that we did today. And then David is going to go through a few kind of menu things and tips that we've learned as well in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
But I do think that we owe it to the viewers who took time to ask us questions in between then and now to answer them. Jose, do you have the spreadsheet available?
Yes, I do.
All right. Why don't you start?
All right. Let's see. After installing firmware 1.10, do you notice any lag when pressing the playback button? Photos take slightly longer to play back.
I
Using
didn't.
CFExpress, by the way.
I haven't seen that.
One thing that I would say is after you do a firmware update, even though the camera resets, you should also reset again. I find that sometimes clears out any like residual bugs. I didn't spend a lot of time with the SL3 on the old firmware because we updated all the ones right away. So not that I've seen, but I'm curious if anyone else has noticed that. We should mention about firmware.
Yep.
Which is
safety tip, guys.
Yeah. Well, you want to tell them?
tip.
You want to tell them, David?
Okay, so there have been some reports of some users having some issues with the camera becoming unresponsive. If they update through the Photos app, it's super convenient to do it because it says, hey, there's an update available. Do you want to update? You say yes. And then the camera is dead for some reason. For now, until Leica sends out a new update for Photos, we highly, highly recommend, if you are getting an SL3 and you need to update the firmware, please do so off of a memory card.
Yeah.
Either SD or Compact Flash Express.
Yeah.
Don't update on the app yet.
If we get news on that, of course, we'll let you know. That was just a quick little insider tip we got recently.
Yeah.
But yes, let's go through some more questions, Jose.
Okay. Will there be a new shutter release or the RC-SCL6 work with the SL3?
Nope. The existing cable release, RC-SCL6 from the SL2 and the SL2S is exactly the same one that works on the SL3. So if you either have that one or bought that one, it'll work perfectly fine.
And I just want to show, because there's some confusion here. If we go to the overhead. There we go. So this looks like, a lot of people think that this middle piece is a different connector. It's actually just like an alignment thing. There's no port there. They're just the two mini phone ports. Just as, could I grab an SL2? Okay, it's actually exactly the same. That is an SL2. It's exactly the same port design as the
You show them both?
yep.
Yeah, you got it.
SL2 and SL3.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no difference whatsoever. It is the exact same remote release cable.
Good question.
But there was a lot of confusion about that.
we got that question a lot, so I'm glad we could address it. What's next?
Okay. Does the new AF improve AF speed, less hunting for S lenses?
We got this question a lot as well, which was kind of nice because I like knowing that people are using their S lenses.
Yeah.
And the answer is no. The limitation on autofocus performance for S lenses on any SL body is the lens itself. I did some pretty extensive testing with an autofocus timer on the SL2 and the SL3 with S lenses, and it was exactly the same down to the 100th of a second. So you'll certainly get the new autofocus modes, like the new animal tracking and all these things, that still maintains, but the speed and the sort of general sort of slowness, we're not ashamed to admit that, of the S lenses on the SL3 is the same as it is on the SL2.
Yeah, and you have to understand that these are very large, heavy lenses with big optical elements inside. And they're very precise stepper motors that Leica employed for the S lenses. But they, I mean, you can hear them working hard. It's like,
but I'll tell you, like, I think this is one of the more underrated types of lens to use because I say it's full frame, meaning it's not cropping like APS-C TL lenses. Right.
Yeah.
You still get electronic aperture control, autofocus, and even weather sealing because the adapter is weather sealed.
Yeah.
So the S lenses are getting real cheap these days. So to get a different look, which is somewhere in between the performance of SL lenses and the character of M lenses, the S lenses kind of sit in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's quite fun, especially that's the 70, which we like, the 120 macro, 180, the 100 f2. There's a bunch that we really like to play with on the SL3.
and the 100 f2. Did you mention that one?
Yeah, 100 f2.
Oh, yeah.
That, yes. Yeah.
And the thing about it, again, to demystify this,
yes.
everyone's like, well, but it's a medium format lens.
Yes.
So I put this on, there's going to be a crop factor.
Yeah.
No. 70 millimeter on this lens means it is a 70 millimeter on your SL.
Yeah.
It's just a 70 millimeter. Whatever that focal length marking is the focal length on your camera because focal length is focal length.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's keep
Unless
going.
there's a crop, and there's no crop here.
Next question.
All right. Let's see. Since the M11, Q3, and SL3 essentially all have the same sensor, is there any reason that the same preset should work for all three?
Lightroom preset.
So,
I made sure that question was there for you.
thank you. I appreciate you. You didn't tell me that was coming.
I know.
Okay,
Nice.
so in going through this testing process, obviously, we're big believers that. And, let me back this up. Okay,
You got this.
so if you have read any of my articles or seen videos on processing where I talk about processing or camera evaluation in general, I am not a proponent of straight out of camera. You can put the acronym in there, right? What is it? SOOC? Okay. I'm not a proponent of that because you're leaving so much quality just sitting on the table. What the camera's job is to capture all that information. Your job is to get that information out of it. So if the camera actually looked good at 15 steps dynamic range, basically like Josh was saying, right? We're going to be processing that to actually make deep shadows and bright highlights, which goes against the concept of having more dynamic range, which would be flatter and grayer files. So that takes me to use the proper presets. I have an entire article on Red Dot Forum where I give you presets for free. That being said, people are like, well, where's the SL3 preset? I was working on one today. It is not ready for publication yet. We used it for our test shots here, and I developed an adaptive or ISO adaptive Lightroom preset. So it changes its processing based on what ISO you're shooting intelligently on a shot-by-shot basis, which is awesome. I have it for the M11. It's great. It's close. I based the SL3 preset on the M11 preset.
Okay.
It's not exact. It's really, really close. I would say the M11 and the SL3 were definitely closer than the SL3 and the SL2.
So to interject, yes, you can use your M11 preset, but you should wait if you want the perfect one.
It's gonna get
for
really
David
close.
to eventually make his in some amount of time.
Right. It's really close. If you want to use the M11 preset for now, the adaptive one that I created, it will get you 90% of the way there on the SL3.
Fair.
For 100%, you got to wait until I have a lot more real-world pictures in my, in my computer, and I can test it in a variety of situations and make sure that it works for the public at large.
Good answer.
How's that?
That was good. I caught you off guard with that, and you did a great job.
I tried.
All right, what's next, Jose?
All right, let's see. Does the SL3 use the M adapter L 18771?
Yes. So there was a little bit of confusion at first about that. The Leica M adapter L also known in its former life as the M adapter T, which is exactly the same thing except for one letter difference on the side of it, is the same adapter that you use for all Leica L-mount cameras. So SL, SL2, SL3, SL2S, CL, all the T cameras, they all use the M adapter L/M adapter T, which is Leica catalog number 18771. Works perfectly fine. All good.
All
What's
right.
next?
Let's see. There's a couple of questions regarding low light performance. In
Okay.
comparison to the...
We can bundle those all together.
Yeah. So we'll get to
A little
those
later,
a
yeah.
little bit later. Well, with the new autofocus system, the hybrid system, when is phase detect used and does it take over contrast detect?
So phase detection is going to be when something is moving. I think that's fair to say. At least in my testing, I didn't notice any speed differences on a static subject, which means that that's contrast detection, which I assume is very similar between the SL2 and SL3.
My understanding with the hybrid autofocus system is it's balancing those needs, because if you have a purely phase detect autofocus system, it has a lot of built-in error. And this was the case even on DSLRs. Before we had mirrorless cameras, in the age of DSLRs, there was so much variability because camera manufacturers were using what at the time they called fuzzy logic, which I guess is like early AI. And the fuzzy logic basically in these predictive autofocus systems would anticipate an object moving before it moved, and it would miss. I mean, you'd have just out of focus images with the hope that it would track something that eventually moved. Contrast detect autofocus is far more accurate because you're focusing at the pixel level. It's just picking up that contrast between, in focus, out of focus on a pixel level. It's far, far more accurate than phase detection. But phase detection is not great at acquiring a subject that's wildly out of focus. So maybe they're using the phase detection to kind of get in the ballpark and then contrast dial it in. That's something that we can certainly explore more with.
Well, what I'll tell you from my testing on a static subject where I would rack the focus all the way out,
No change.
the speed was the same, SL2 and SL3.
Interesting.
So I think that the contrast detection is being used on static, and then the phase is being used on things that are moving.
Possible.
Obviously, I don't know where the exact sort of handoff point
Exactly.
is. I don't know if we'll ever really be able to test that. We could try. But yeah, that's the answer to the question.
Right.
I would say.
Okay.
All right.
It's a lot of chatter over
Yeah,
there.
I have some questions I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to let Jose finish first.
Sure. All right. The left top dial is new.
Yes.
Is there a way of locking the ISO setting as to not inadvertently change it? Is there a way to limit the ISO range choices on both or either of the high and low ISO settings?
So, yes, there's a dial lock. No, there's not a limiter. And in fact, that is a great idea because I had the exact same suggestion when I went over to Germany and sat in these presentations, and in the Q&A, I put my hand up. I said, wouldn't it be great if we could like dial in, or not dial in, but have set points of low and high as a range, so you don't accidentally go, shoot at 100,000 ISO. So let's say you want to set it up in your, and this can work in conjunction with user profiles, because now there's 6 user profiles for photo and 6 for video. So imagine you have a street photography profile and you have, let's say, 800 to 12,500 or 1,600 to whatever. You could more quickly operate the camera under those circumstances. And then let's say you have a landscape profile or landscape user profile that's 100 to 400, and the dial wouldn't accidentally get kicked over into a setting you don't want.
That'd be cool.
And basically, I asked the question and said, that's an interesting idea. If people want it, maybe we'll do it.
Maybe they'll watch this show and say, somebody wants it. Let's do it. Who knows?
So and that's one of the advantages when you really dive into this, why Leica's gone with these soft controls, meaning they don't have markings on them. Like, if you look at a M11, here's an M11, right? It has specific hard controls, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, right? And yes, you have your M and your A settings, and the M you can set to whatever you want in the menu. But this is nice, especially in the M aesthetic, right? And the way that we use M cameras, this is very convenient. On an SL, the whole concept of having these kind of dials is that they are programmable. So for instance, if, let's say, this is our aperture, On the new camera, we can control this in full stops, half stops, third stops, and now 1/6 stops, right? That's something new that we also saw in the SL3. They can change what these dials do and how they're mapped very, very simply just with a firmware update. So I think we have just seen the first, this is the camera in this first version
Yeah.
with firmware.
Yes.
Josh, you've talked about this a lot
Oh, yeah.
with, let's say, the SL2. How many firmware updates did we see over its period?
We went from version
life?
1.0 to version 6.0 with about 3 iterations in between. So
A lot.
like 15 to 20 firmware updates in the last 4 years.
And not every single one, but
Yeah.
we saw some major
yeah.
improvements and feature additions, didn't
So
we?
this is just the beginning for the SL3, and obviously the feedback that we get, that you guys give to Leica directly and everyone, everywhere, and everyone else is valuable because Leica is going to be listening to that to understand what implementations to bring in new firmware for the SL3.
Clearly. I mean, clearly, if you don't see this camera and understand that Leica actually is listening to user feedback, you're
they
not,
actually do.
They do, because
They may not listen to everything, but they do listen.
they really do listen.
do. Okay, next question, Jose.
All right. Is there a way to turn off the playback menu display? Apparently, the delete start menu is always displayed.
Yes, I will demonstrate that right now. So I think what we're talking about, let me see. Let me take a picture of the keyboard. Okay, here we
Ooh,
go.
lovely picture of the
Lovely
keyboard.
picture of the keyboard. So there's my keyboard. So
Wow.
what this person is talking about are these 3 icons here, which are new sort of touch-sensitive icons on the SL3 Playback. So if you go into Menu, and then we go to Customize Control right here. See that? Okay. And then we turn off touch icons in play mode. Now, they are gone. No more. So if you don't like those icons there, just turn off touch icons in play mode in Customize Control, and those icons go away. And then, of course, you can use the FN button to cycle through the different viewing modes or info profiles, just like you would do in Live View. So easy answer to that question, thankfully.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
What's next?
All right. How do S lenses perform on the SL3? On the SL2, they were pretty slow. Is there an improvement
talked about
on
that
the
already.
SL3?
Those are
Okay,
S lenses or SL lenses?
Yeah,
S lenses.
Oh, yeah, we did.
sorry, I should have combined that with the other question.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just to make sure. Okay.
More than one person asked it.
I know, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
All right. Do you want to go with recent questions that we're getting in the chat right now, or?
Well, we got a question I want to answer. I want David to answer.
Okay.
Which is, does the SL from LBJ2? Does the SL3 have specialized micro lenses on the sensor to support adapting M lenses?
Kind of. I mean, it's slightly different than. Let me back up. Yes, Leica engineers their own micro lens structure. No Leica digital camera since the M8 has had an anti-aliasing filter. There are no anti-aliasing filters on any single Leica digital camera ever. That's an easy one. They have experimented with various iterations of micro lenses. Again, since the M8, using offset micro lenses, using conical micro lenses. So yes, Leica is always keeping the usage of M lenses in mind when they're engineering the micro lens structure on any camera that is capable of taking M lenses. Leica is very interested in protecting the legacy and the usability of all these lenses. But M lenses, unlike traditional, larger forum lenses, larger lenses meant for mirrorless systems, meant for DSLRs, these are telecentric lenses. These are much higher angle of incidence. So they're not telecentric. The light coming out of the back of an M lens comes out at a very, very sharp angle relative to, say, this is a DSLR lens. The light coming out is almost in a straight path rather than coming out at steep angles. So yes, all Leica cameras require specialized micro lenses in order to prevent corner shading, to prevent color shifting, vignetting, anything like that you might have seen on non-Leica cameras when you put especially a wider angle M lens on than when you use it on a Leica. Now, there is a small caveat here, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but the cover glass is slightly thicker on an SL3 than it is on an M11P by like point something millimeters. It's extremely small, but they did want to point out, when I say they, the camera engineers, in that theoretically, an M is still the best body to use a M lens on. And they always have said this, right, Josh? Going back to the first SL, an SL is the second best body to use an M lens on. But remember, for some imperceptible difference in image quality, and I do mean imperceptible because we have tested M lenses on the SL3 body, and you compare it against an M11, and I mean, I can't tell a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody can under some critical viewing condition. But what you're gaining on the SL3 body that you don't have on the M body, you're getting image stabilization.
Yes. And a very, very good EVF.
And a very good EVF.
Yeah. And a totally different user interface and big feeling, sort of user experience. So I happen to like very much using M lenses on the SL bodies, and I gravitate towards that, especially with vintage lenses, because it's just so much easier to dial in my precise focus and compose around the lens's characteristics with the SL camera. Even the original SL, it's quite nice.
It is.
I want to.
Well,
before I just want to do a quick mention in terms of additional SL3 content before I forget real quick. Leica Camera USA also did a great live stream this past Thursday.
The TechTalk.
TechTalk on the SL3. I want to give them a shout out if you want to learn even more about it from people that aren't us. I don't know why you would, but let's say you're crazy.
I like those people, so yeah.
If you go to Leica Camera USA's YouTube channel, Jose can put a link. Don't watch it now.
No.
Wait. But I do want to give them a shout out for some additional great content that Nathan and John and Stefan put together on the show on Thursday night. So
really good stuff.
Good work, guys. And Jose will drop a link.
I did watch it in its entirety.
Yeah, cool. So anyway,
and good job.
Mention that real quick before I forgot.
For sure.
Jose, I think there's some more questions for us though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. How does the battery perform?
Like a battery. It powers the camera on. And
Don't be that guy.
Okay, battery life is similar to SL2 with the old battery. So the SL2, I think with the new BPSCL6, will last slightly longer than the SL3 with the BPSCL6. But battery life and battery performance is similar to the SL2 when it came out with its battery, the BPSCL4.
Yeah.
I made this recommendation in our last show, and I just want to reiterate this. I found the best way to preserve battery life and extend battery life on the SL3 is to put it into a aggressive sleep mode, power saving mode. And I can show you that right now. So on the camera, let's go to nope. Camera settings, power saving, and auto power off is on. Settings, you can set this one to 30 seconds, just like that. And the camera will go to sleep because the wake time is so much faster than it was on the SL2. And Josh has numbers on this. That's one thing. The other thing you can do is you can also change if you are using, it's turning on right now, but if you are actually using connectivity, not there. Oh, Leica Photos, here we go. Right now it's not paired, but if Leica Photos is paired and in high performance mode, it will drain your battery faster than if it's in one of the other, like the eco mode, for instance. Yep. Okay, so those are two things to look at, and you'll notice the camera, I'm gonna actually let it go to sleep here. And Josh, while I'm waiting 30 seconds for this camera to go to sleep, can you, what are the numbers here?
Oh yeah, so I did some testing in terms of off to first shot timing on the SL2 and the SL3 with both SL lenses and M lenses. Mm-hmm. And on average, in terms of using SL lenses on both the SL2 and the SL3 starts up 20% faster. This is the same speed, whether it's actually off or just asleep. The startup time on the SL3 was exactly the same. So it's about 20% faster. If you have an M lens, it's actually double or 100% faster, I guess.
100%, yeah.
So it's about 0.8 seconds versus 1.4 seconds. So like not quite double, but very close.
Very close.
So if you're looking for the fastest possible startup time on the SL3 or the SL2, use an M lens, but the difference on the SL2 is much, much shorter. It was 1.38 to 1.71 seconds versus 0.8 to 1.3 something on the SL3. So significant speed improvement when you're using M lenses in terms of being off or asleep to that first shot. So if the camera falls asleep and you pick it up and you want to grab that shot, that's the difference. So
And if you come back to this camera here, you'll see I haven't touched it. Oh, look at this magic, right? So the camera is in power saving mode. It's gone to sleep. Doesn't look alive. And here's the thing. If I just push the shutter button, the camera's awake. Done. That's it. And you're ready to shoot. So for me, that's my method going forward. It would drive me crazy on the SL2 for that wake time. So I either just turn the camera off and turn it back on, or I would set the power saving mode to like 10 minutes because I didn't want it.
It's fast. The SL3, it feels actually faster than it is, like in terms of the wake up time. So, and again, whether the camera is off, meaning you press and hold the power button and turn it on, or it's asleep, the wake up time is exactly the same. I mean, down to the 100th of a second. So there's no difference in terms of that. And I also found out, I was curious, well, if I just put it to sleep and left it overnight with the battery drain, but it's smart enough to actually fully shut itself off after some amount of time.
Clever.
So I tried that last night. I left one asleep and one off overnight to see if there would be a difference in battery drain, but I discovered that the one that was asleep did eventually just turn itself off and the batteries were exactly the same, which was convenient.
Well, and Josh has been talking for longer than 30 seconds because you'll notice the camera turned off again. But I want to show this angle now. So I'm going to, again, I don't have to push the power button to wake it up. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to push the shutter release button. And I'm just going to press there, and you see it comes alive almost instantaneously.
It's very fast, which was awesome. So that felt really good because it does feel very, very snappy, which was nice. And I didn't feel that the SL2 was slow.
No, but this is just next level.
But it's very, very fast.
And it's a great way to preserve battery life because you're only keeping the camera on for 30 seconds at a time unless you're actively shooting.
Yeah. I'm going to ask and answer a question that I saw that I wanted to address quickly, which was, has Leica released a new SL lens roadmap for 2024 and beyond? You're referring to the roadmap they introduced in like 2016?
Yeah.
Which was great, but no. I would love that, but they have not done that. I think they learned their lesson because they did that with all these promised dates and then everything was late and everybody got all bent out of shape.
Yeah, but I got to say for years that something was coming like 3 years prior.
Yes. So no, there's not a new roadmap. I don't imagine they'll do that again. I would love that. But as you guys know, we say it the whole time, we don't know what's coming. You know, if it was up to me, I would be doing product launches on a Saturday afternoon and chilling, but no. So we're just as hyped up for what's next as you guys, but we don't know what's happening next. Jose.
Okay. Are the SF60 flash and Sfc1 flash remote control compatible with the SL3?
Yes. Yeah, same flash compatibility as SL2 with those items. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Going back to the battery, actually, we have a question here. Q3 battery gets error on SL3 that some features are disabled.
So if you're using a BPSCL6, which is the updated battery, you're not supposed to get that message. I will admit, I've seen 1 or 2 firmware bugs where occasionally that happens. I think that's something that Leica is probably aware of. Again, major new camera, just came out. The occasional bug is to be expected. So yeah, don't stress out if that happens.
And I'll show you what that message looks like.
Yeah. Well, what it's supposed to look like with an SCL4, which is what you'll get every time. So
right. This is a BP SCL4, which you can find.
You're never going to see it.
You're never going to see it.
Just
but
put it in the camera.
It says right there. Ready? Okay. So when I put this in the camera, you will see the bad message. Here we go.
We got to turn it on.
Well, I had it in sleep mode, I guess.
No, it turns
battery,
on.
right? Yeah. And it's unhappy. Oh, because I didn't push it in. There we go.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, so it says several functions are not available using battery type BP SCL4. Please use battery BP SCL6 for full functionality. Yeah, that message, unfortunately, every time, even if I don't take the battery out, and this is something we mentioned, again, to Leica, but if you turn the camera on again, you'll notice that message comes up every single time. It's unfortunate, and the functions that are not available, you lose the ability to shoot 8K and possibly 4K video, and you lose higher burst speeds.
Yeah. There's no reason. Just don't do it.
But if it's the only battery you have...
Well, yeah, it's better than nothing. Yes, it will power the camera.
It will power the camera. You can take still images to your heart's content.
Yeah.
It will last about 30% less than the new battery. but it will still work if you have no other option.
Yeah.
But we do recommend
You should swap those so you don't. Yeah.
we do recommend getting stocking up on the new fresh
SPL6.
batteries.
Yes. Okay. What else we got, Jose? We'll do a few more questions and then we'll get into some other goodies.
Okay. It seems that the shutter sound is different than the SL2. Is there a reason why?
Yes.
The new shutter.
It's a brand new shutter mechanism,
There we go. Sounds different.
and it's smaller and lighter.
Okay. Is there a way to make focus peaking, active only when using manual lenses without changing the profile each time?
No, but you're asking like if it's smart enough to know there's an M lens attached. And
Not
then-
currently.
No, you could do user profiles like that. So you could have an M lens user profile and an SL lens user profile. That's the easiest way that I can think of, where you can literally just tap on the user profile icon and bounce between them.
And the other thing you could do is program one of the function buttons, or program one of the rear screen buttons
Yeah.
to be a capture assistant, bring you to the capture assistant menu, and then you can just turn on and off another capture assistant number 4, which would be focus peaking, let's say. Or you could just cycle through and have an
No,
extra
you can actually set focus peaking on a custom button now.
Oh, you can.
You can. Yeah, I just was checking that. Yeah, you
Okay.
can. You can literally. I'm just going to show this actually. Real
Yeah,
quick.
go for it.
Can we do that? Here we go. So if you press and hold, like I'm going to press and hold this top button here, this
Put
function
a lens
button.
cap on or something.
It's fine. Press and hold. Wait, it's just going to come up anyway. You can see focus peaking is the last item in this very long list. So if you go to the top, you can pick focus peaking and then tap it, and literally just turns it on. and
Oh,
off.
nice.
That's actually
There you go. That's the easiest way.
really, really convenient. I had not tried that until just now. So thank you. That's actually this list, this very long list is definitely underappreciated because people, including myself, don't really want to scroll through the whole thing. But there's a lot of useful things in here, like a lot. So take the time, especially when you first get the camera, to go through this, and really you can dial the camera in very, very precisely.
And of course, if that list is way too long, you can clean up the list as well.
You can, yes, you can do that, yes. Let's do like a couple more questions, and then we'll show some.
Sure. Just a quick one. Can you disable the warning message?
No,
No.
not yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully in one day, yes.
Does the SL3 have a lens cap on detection notification alarm?
No.
Lens cap on? Yeah, it's called, you press the shutter and it stays open for 30 minutes. No, it does not.
We recommend
Well, the David Farkas approach is don't use lens caps at all.
Don't use lens caps at
So
all.
that's his.
problem solved.
Yeah.
When you mention the measurements of the camera compared to the SL2, you did not comment on the width. How does it compare to the SL2?
It's thinner.
Well, they're saying this way. The body.
The thickness is the same, I think.
Mm,
I don't remember.
it is.
How are you going to tell from that?
I'm gonna try. It is a little thicker. Slightly thicker.
Let me answer this question real quick, David.
Slightly thicker because of the screen. So the screen does protrude a bit.
There you go.
The body itself is roughly the same size, but but because we have this flip out screen, obviously the camera stops here, and then the flip screen takes up this amount of depth. The other thing that some astute people have noticed, I don't know if I can get an angle on this. Give me one.
One more? Sure.
Yeah, is this piece right here, this little transition to the lens mount, is actually slightly deeper recess from the lens mount to the body, because what they tried to do here is make this part of the body thinner to compensate for the additional space of the screen. But there's only so much you can do while still fitting the imaging path, the sensor, the electronics, and also the flip screen.
Cool.
Listen, I'm going to say this.
Yes.
Y'all wanted the flip screen.
And you got it.
You got
I don't
it.
want to hear anything else. Let me answer a quick question, then I'm going to show something
Yeah.
cool, and then Luis asked, what is floating ISO? Is that specific to the SL3? No, that was in the SL2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
It simply adjusts the ISO in real time if you have a variable aperture zoom.
Yes.
So let's say you have the 24 to 90, which is 2.8 to 4. If you're at 2.8 at 24 and you start to zoom, even though you're not changing the aperture is changing, and the floating ISO ensures that it's raising the ISO to compensate for that change.
And it's less than, and it was more important actually on the SL2 where there's whole f-stop or whole ISO stop. So it's somewhere between.
So now, before we get into the ISO comparisons, which we're going to do, it wouldn't be an episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk if I didn't show something awesome. Now, I don't
There's nothing over here.
know what's over here.
Oh, okay.
I'm very hesitant to ever talk about Leica products as investments, and I'm not going to start doing that now. But there definitely have been trends where certain pieces have gone up in value over time. And I try now to identify future trends. I try to see what's maybe not getting as much love or what's maybe underappreciated. And one of those is certain limited edition or special edition digital M cameras. A lot of digital M special editions don't get the love they deserve because people will say, they're going to be outdated.
They're going to be outdated.
Exactly. But the reality is some of the sets that Leica has done in the last 15 years are just visually beautiful, very unique. And when you can get one that is what I call basically unused or new in the box, not new, but unused, meaning no marks on the strap lugs, nothing on the base plate, I think certain.
Wait, while Josh is clearly warming up to something,
Yes.
I'm curious.
Yes.
If you have a guess of
Yes.
what he's going to show,
They might, I don't know.
put it in the chat.
So anyway, so my logic is the best and most interesting future possible cool value retention Leica stuff could be, one of the categories is certain digital M special editions, ideally sets with lenses, ideally ones that are unused, meaning new condition, and also ones that have been serviced. Because one of the concerns is, rightfully so, if something sits for 10 or 15 years, is it going to still work? So you want one that's got a fresh service, but still unused. And bonus points if it's a camera that has a shutter counter, because then you can actually tell specifically that it has not been used. Recently,
The astute out there might have
Yes.
narrowed this down.
recently I have been able to acquire such a set, and I thought I would take a moment
I think we have a winner, actually.
to show it
Look,
while
look. You got a winner. You got a winner.
while we are talking about goodies. I'm gonna take you back.
Yeah, take.
I'm gonna take you back to 2009. Okay, hold on. Don't come close up yet. I'm gonna take you back to 2009 when the reigning Leica Digital M was a far cry from what it is today, but we got something very special. I'm gonna show you right now. Here we go. I got the gloves on. We're good. Can I get the bag open with the gloves on? That's the real question.
That is a real question.
I think I can. There we go. This is the Leica M8 White Edition. One of, in my opinion, the most visually stunning digital M's ever. It is, like M8, of course, it was released in 2009, and it features a white painted, thank you, top plate and base plate. Let's get the close-up, Jose.
There you go. Move that out of the way.
Go. White painted top plate and base plate with the red dot that stands out beautifully and silver accents across the board. Absolutely stunning. And this particular camera is, of course, a set. We'll get to the lens in a second. Unused. Nothing, no strap has ever been on this camera. The only shot, there's about 250 something shots on the shutter, which basically is what the factory puts on when they do their testing. So it's never been fired, never been used, never had a lens mounted on it. This is as close to new as you're going to get. And the best part is, these gloves are a little bit too big. Hold on. It comes with some cool other bits, like, look at the case the lens comes in.
White?
A white leather lens case. So cool. And inside we have, now I've talked about this lens on the show before, but I had it at sort of an orphan. I didn't have it with the set. This is one of the only ways to get a 28mm lens in silver. This is a 28mm
Love the
Elmer.
breakthrough lens cap on there.
Yeah, well, because it actually doesn't come with a cap for that, so I
Yeah.
wanted to protect it, so I found one. This is a 28mm Elmer spheric in silver anodized, meaning it's aluminum barrel. It's got the white lettering and numbering on the barrel, a white focus tab, and of course the beautiful clip-on lens shade. This is probably one of the most expensive Leica lens hoods. These are probably $1,000 by themselves. And it also comes with a silver metal push-on cap that's at the bottom of the case. So you get this absolutely beautiful and extremely rare 28 Elmer, and to top it all off, it comes with, I'm not even gonna take it out of the plastic, a matching white leather neck strap.
Nice.
This is like very Siegfried and Roy, I feel like.
Nice. Nice.
So as I mentioned, you can go back to me, Jose. I'm just a giant nerd for this kind of stuff, especially what I would consider sort of the under-loved and underappreciated special editions. And I think this is absolutely gorgeous. Somebody, maybe you're watching who used to have this. Somebody sat on this for 15 years.
Wow.
Never used it. I mean, it's got everything, original box, packaging, everything, even the outer box that contained the inner boxes.
Which is a big box.
Never used. I just got the camera and the lens back from Wetzlar in customer care where I got a full overhaul. So this thing is ready to rock. Both the camera and the lens were serviced. Absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, if you want something that's kind of out there that I think has great future value retention possibilities, as long as you don't use it, I know, blasphemous, but so be it. It has a shutter counter, which is cool. I think this is a great example. As I get more sets like this, I'm going to try to feature them on the show because I just don't think they show up that often. And I think a lot of people have never seen one or never will get to see one because they just kind of, it's been 15 years. They only made 275 of these for the world, which is pretty rare. Nowadays, they're making 500, 1,000, 1,500, whatever. So to see a set from 15 years ago that was only 275, new in the box, fully serviced, it's pretty special.
Nice.
So we've got it. It's on the website. Jose can drop a link if he hasn't already. But anyway, I had to show off something cool while we had your attention. But now,
back to our
regularly scheduled programming, which is what you came here to see. Here we
Although
go.
you might have, don't you have an announcement as well?
Which announcement? This one?
We have an event coming up.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. Thank you. Also, if you are in Miami or are thinking about coming to Miami, we are, again, partnering with KH. They're a huge, well, you know who they are, massive store that buys and sells and trades everything under the sun. KH is coming to visit Leica Store Miami for 3 days, April 4th, 5th, and 6th. You could bring all your photographic gear. Doesn't have to be Leica. It can be anything. They will either buy it from you, or if you sell it to them and then you use that credit to trade with us, you get an extra 10% bonus.
Jose, you can
come
throw
to the screen
up
here. And go. So this is it. It's on our website. You don't have to RCP, just show up. It is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, April 4th, 5th, and 6th from 10 a.m. till 5. Come by. We'll have some snacks. We'll have some drinks. And if you have gear that's sitting around collecting dust, you can either sell it to KH. You don't have to worry about shipping it out. You just give it to them, and they cut you a check. So super, super cool. April 4th, 5th, and 6th at Leica Store Miami.
Nice.
Good excuse to come visit us before it gets too hot.
Always good advice. Always good advice.
All right. Okay, I think now we should go to some testing.
Let's do that.
So,
Who wants to see ISO testing?
yeah, very exciting. One of the, of course, most asked questions is how does the SL3 compare at high ISO to the SL2 and the SL2S? So, of course, we did that testing over the last week, and we have compiled our results in Lightroom. Some very exciting images. If you know what you're about to see, it's the lovely camera bag shelf at Leica Store Miami,
Yep.
which I have found to be a suitable real-world target that shows things that we all know what they look like in real life, under regular lighting, not laboratory conditions, so you can really see and understand how the cameras perform against each other. So let me pull up that.
The old Lightroom.
Okay. Jose.
I'm regretting the choice of green.
Yeah, so David was a great assistant and helped me process, well, he did all the processing of these files and decided that he was just going to tag and flag and star everything in like a very strange situation. So ignore that. But I think one of the first things I want to show is a dynamic range benefit, if you will, that I noticed right away when looking at the images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, there's so many files here. Okay, I'm going to grab ISO, bear with me here, hold on. Here we go, ISO 200. Nope, I'm getting there. Almost there. You'll see why we have so many files in a second. Okay, ISO 200 on the SL3. And then, here we go. Oh, SL3, we're getting there. Okay, almost. Where would ISO, oh, here we go. Bingo, got it, sorry. Okay. Okay, so here we have the Leica SL3 and the Leica SL2, both full resolution DNG files at ISO 200. So this should be your best case scenario pretty much for both cameras. So let's zoom in and take a look. We can see here the obvious detail advantage in the SL3 files, which are on the left. Considerably more detail in the texture of the bag, on the text on the cards. But what struck me right away was look at the highlight on the metal shelf. These are the exact same exposure, the exact same sort of normalized processing. Look at how much more detail is in the highlight here versus in the highlight here. So we're talking about highlight retention, which is always a big factor when you're bringing in dynamic range. SL3 has a significant advantage there that I see just off the cuff with this test. SL2 is no slouch at detail. I mean, the SL2 files are beautiful, but of course the SL3 files are just at another level.
Yeah, now something else I have noticed while I was processing these files, which is kind of interesting, there is actually in some of the cases, especially in that Billingham bag,
Oh, here.
yeah, there's some instances of moiré. You can actually see a little bit of it there
Where?
on the SL2 shot.
Oh, here. Yes.
There's a little bit of moiré in the fabric where there is no moiré in the SL3. And actually, when you get to the SL2S files, there's actually sometimes a really significant amount of moiré in that camera bag that is completely non-existent in the SL3 file.
It's easier.
So that's an interesting sort of side benefit to additional resolution, is that you avoid moiré as you increase resolution.
So if you want to understand 60 versus 24 megapixels, this comparison is going to do it for you.
Well, you can see the moiré in that.
It's loading. But yeah, you can see the moiré number one. But on the right, we have the SL2S. On the left, we have the SL3, both at ISO 200. Of course, massive advantage in file quality, but that's expected. We're talking 60 megapixels versus 24. And as you can see, we're starting to get some moiré here. That's the sort
in the beige one too.
that's that sort of like
Yeah, look
color
at
swirliness you're seeing. Yeah, that's what you're seeing there. But none of that on the SL3. But of course, you came here for the high ISO setting, so that's what I'm going to give you. Here we go. Let's just go right to our favorite setting, which is ISO 6400. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to get to the right file. Bear with me here. Okay. And here we go. So on the left, we have SL3 at ISO 6400, and on the right, we have the SL2 at the same setting. Let's take a look. All right, so we're seeing a lot more detail. We're seeing a much tighter noise pattern, but I think the detail in the bags is really what gives it away. You did a good job processing these, David.
Thank you.
I'll give you some
Thank
credit.
you. Yeah.
Here we go. Here, look at the Oberwerth emboss here versus here on the SL2. It's like starting to get a little bit smeary.
Well, look at the stitching on the side of the bag.
Oh yeah, that's a huge difference there. So considerably more. I mean, look at this right here. The stitching
Exactly.
here. Good.
Yep.
That was a good idea, but I missed that. The stitching there. Also, again, I'll highlight detail. Obviously, we're losing more as we lose dynamic range, but you can still see more highlight retention here, even at ISO 6400 on the. Sorry, guys. Here we go. On the SL3. So look at that difference. That's a huge difference. I mean, the amount of detail retention while having a tighter noise. So you have a tighter noise pattern. I mean, look at the shadow noise here versus here. Much tighter noise pattern and much more detail. So this is what we are paying for. And look at the highlight here.
Ooh, look at the barcode label.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. So a little bit of a highlight here, and here it's half of the, or more than half of this little metal piece. And yeah, look at the label here. Difference in basically very readable versus borderline readable. Again, no magic here. There's no like AI denoise, no games. This is just basic Lightroom processing, trying to normalize both files. But yeah, big advantage for the SL3 here. Not a huge surprise. Should we go higher?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and I can say as well. So what my goal here was to try to make each camera in its own way look as good as possible at all the settings.
Yeah.
So I am optimizing for the SL2.
Right.
I am optimizing for the SL3.
David's not trying to handicap either one of these cameras. He wants them each, for the sake of this test, these cameras and these files are processed to look as good as they can.
Yeah.
Here's a huge difference. So 25,000 ISO on the SL3 versus the SL2 is the difference, in my opinion, between pretty usable and...
It's not terrible.
It's not bad on the SL2, but what a difference. I mean, let's go to the blue bag here. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, look at the Billingham patch here.
Well, and traditionally...
Look at that noise here. You're starting to actually get a little bit of banding.
Yeah, hold it right there.
Yes.
So traditionally, the blue channel has been historically difficult and much more noisy than the green and the red channels. And the reason, especially the green channel. So when we're looking at that beige camera bag, that's the best case scenario because it's a lot of green. Here, we're looking at blue channel, and it's a dead giveaway, I think, on the SL2, and why you're seeing this huge advantage. We talk about this in our monochrome episodes. Blue channel has 2 stops more gain applied to it than the green channel. That is why there's only 25% green or 25% blue versus 50% green, because most of your image information, all your luminance information is coming mostly from the green channel because the blue exhibits so much noise. Now, when you photograph something like this, there's no getting away from blue.
Yeah, this is a really, really great comparison here, showing the differences between these two cameras, for sure. I love that. I want to talk about something else, which is we had some chatter about the alleged advantages at using MDNG, so we have 36 megapixel DNG from the SL3, which is one of the features we saw first on the M11, then on the Q3, and now with the SL3, which is the ability.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, the triple resolution technology.
Yes.
But I think there was some confusion around this for valid reasons.
Yeah.
One, I think Leica's initial messaging was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Because they said, oh, you gain a stop of dynamic range and you get better ISO performance. And I think people accepted that because historically, let's say in the world of medium format capture backs, especially CCD camera digital backs, they employed pixel binning. So combining, say, 4 pixels into one larger pixel in order to increase the light sensitivity. Historically, that's been the case. We, after testing, both on the M11, on the Q3, and now on the SL3, people don't seem to like that we're saying there's no advantage. So we're just going to show you what we found, and you be the judge for yourself.
So don't go to the computer yet, Jose. Let's
Not yet.
Let's see. These are.
I did rename the files.
Yeah, you did. No, this is right. Okay.
Yeah, the resized.
Yeah, hold on. So I'm just setting this up, and then we're going to show you guys real quick. Give it a minute to load.
There. Oh, that's especially large because it's a TIFF. Okay.
That's fine. Jose, we're ready. So what I've done, what David is, and I have done, is we have an MDNG file out of the camera, meaning it's shot as a 36 megapixel file from the SL3, and a LDNG, a 6 megapixel file, resized in Lightroom.
Yes.
To exactly the same 36 megapixel resolution. So the pixel dimensions are exactly the same. So now we're going to see if there's an advantage to shooting an MDNG or to downsizing the file later in terms of detail and noise. And if you're watching right now, you may think to yourself, oh, the one on the left has more detail. That has to be the MDNG. It's not. The one on the left is a downsized 60 megapixel file. The one on the right is an MDNG. Look at the difference in detail in the text here on the playing cards. I mean, it's night and day.
Again, look at the stitching on the back.
Let's go to the bag here. Noise performance, pretty much exactly the same. I give a slight edge maybe to the downsampled file, but it's splitting hairs, so I won't be so critical. But in terms of fine detail, huge difference. I noticed, I was looking at this earlier, like this strap here.
Now point out, look at the ISO on here.
Yeah, let's go to a lower ISO. Let's give it a better.
Well, not 200. Go to.
What do you think?
6400.
6400?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm getting there. Perfect. Okay.
The flag ones are the MDNG. Oh, sorry, gave it away.
This one. Okay. So we have on the left, okay, here we go. I want to get it right, that's all. So, okay, so on the left, we have the MDNG, and now on the right, we have the SL3, the full-size DNG downsized in Lightroom. Again,
I think it's even more dramatic here.
Look at the difference in the detail here. Huge difference. Let's go. There's so much more detail. I'm being hyperbolic. There's more detail. It's not night and day, but it's pretty noticeable how much more detail you get when you downsample. So I guess what I'm getting at here is if your objective is the best quality 36 megapixel file, shoot it at LDNG at 60 and then downsize it. Of course, if you want to save space in your memory card or save space on your hard drive, yeah, shoot MDNG, that's totally fine. But this test pretty definitively shows you that shooting an MDNG is not a performance advantage in terms of image quality, detail, and noise over shooting LDNG and then downsizing it.
Yes.
Now I'm going to pause there because I don't know if that's kind of a controversial
It's a hot take.
topic.
It's a hot
Jose,
take.
is there any questions I need to address about this before I move on?
Let's see. Not at the moment. Not
Okay.
yet.
If they come in,
no one's
Takes a
yelling
few
at us right now.
seconds for them
Yeah,
to-
I'm surprised.
okay. So now we're going to talk about the other.
This is usually where the comments come in all caps. It's like,
All right. So now we're going to talk about another question that we got quite a lot, which was, how does the SL3 compare to the SL2S? The SL2S is the Lowlight, or was the Lowlight king.
oh, did you just give it away? Did you just give it away?
Because of its 24 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor.
And it's a great camera. You're
noise
watching
performance-
right. us on SL2S.
The noise performance of the SL2S is amazing.
Yes.
It is so far ahead of its time in terms of where it sits now in the marketplace. I found the question interesting of, I have an SL2S. I care more about low light performance than anything. Is the SL3 better, or how do they compare? Because the reality is the SL2S couldn't be more different
For sure.
than the SL3.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about 24 megapixels versus 60. I don't think they necessarily even sit in the same boat, other than the fact that they're both L-mount full-frame cameras, because they're just so different. So what we've done, what David has done, is we have an SL3 file sized down to 24 megapixels, so we can compare apples to apples to an SL2S file. So these two images I'm going to show you are the same resolution, both downsized to 24 megapixels at ISO 6400. Let's take a look. Here we go. So on the left, we have SL3. On the right, we have SL2S. And these files look pretty much the same.
It's very slight exposure difference.
Yeah. Keep in mind, they're totally different sensors. So it's to get to look exactly the same, you would have to do so much post-processing, then you're taking a step backwards. So I see no meaningful differences. There's actually probably a little bit more detail in the SL3 here.
I definitely see, especially in the numbers at the bottom.
Yeah, here you start to see it. Let's look. Yeah, I would say, this is ISO 6400. What I would say is, if you have an SL2S and you say to yourself, I really value extremely clean 24 megapixel images, but I'm interested in the SL3 for all the new features that we talked about earlier and also 2 weeks ago, you should get the SL3. Now, I realize they're hard to get right now. In fact, I'm just talking about specs alone, performance alone, output alone. Yes, the SL3 will perform as good as, if not better, than the SL2S downsized to 24 megapixels. I showed the comparison earlier of 60 versus 24. It's so different. There's no point.
Well, why don't you pull up 25,000?
All right, let's do it. Here we go.
Let's see what that does.
All right, so give me a second to find the right images. Okay. Let me zoom out. So we have SL3 on the left again, SL2 on the right, both at 25,000. Let's give it a second to load here.
Now let's see if the SL2S still holds its edge.
Now the SL3 is coming out ahead a little bit. Very interesting. It's still pretty close. But let me look at that label up there, because that was, now we're starting to see the SL3 pulling ahead. A little bit tighter noise pattern and just more detail here in the text. I don't know how well this is coming through on the YouTubes, but I can read this text a lot more clearly on the SL3 file that's downsized. So yeah, I think this should pretty definitively address that question, in my opinion, which is, does the SL3 perform better? The answer is, I would say yes. If not, it's at least equal to at 24 megapixels. But of course, you get an SL3, you have the litany of other advantages that the SL3 brings to the table that David talked about.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
Should we show the
yes.
underexposed? Okay,
yes.
so
you want me to set it up?
I was just about to say,
okay.
David set up the next test. Was his idea, was a great one. So talk to us about what they're going to see in the next test.
Sure. Okay.
Come back to
the white shot while
I
Josh looks for this. Okay. I often explain, my primary shooting is landscape photography. And even with 14 or 15 stops dynamic range, that's not usually enough in a single capture to hold all the highlights. So even with highlight weighted metering, which I do love and I do use, I so very often still need to underexpose on purpose with the idea that I'm going to pull up and open up the shadows later in post. My style of shooting in the field is that I shoot for post. I understand the capabilities of the camera. So a test like this is invaluable, both for knowing the performance envelope of the camera so I can go out and I can confidently say, oh, I can easily underexpose by this amount, pull up that information, and I know I've got it, because there's also a tipping point to where I need to make a decision when, okay, do I shoot a single shot underexposed, pull up the shadows, or do I go that extra step of shooting a bracketed sequence combining to HDR in Lightroom, which does add a lot of post-processing work. I'd much rather have a single file than a bracketed sequence to expand my range.
There we go.
Okay, so what I had Josh do is shoot a series of test shots with the SL2 and the SL3. SL2, I'm very familiar with. I understand the capabilities. I'm not so sure on the SL3 yet because I haven't gotten out there in real environments. So this is extremely helpful. And basically shoot an exposure sequence both at, well, you have a low one.
This is
the high one.
3200 and then 3000. What do you want me to show?
Show the low one first. Sorry, the one at 200 ISO.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So
Okay,
so we did right. So the first iteration was Josh shot it at 200 ISO, low ISO that you would shoot for landscape photography, which is going to maximize that dynamic range, maximize signal to noise ratio, and theoretically have the most recoverability and most file malleability of those files. And we underexposed what by 1, 2, 3, and 4 stops.
Yeah, this is
right?
the most. Hold on, give me a second. I just want to make sure I get to the right
Sure.
settings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I have to like count because there's all these little files that are like so different. And then should be SL2.
Probably should have. Well, you can see in the develop settings.
Yeah.
You can see where I pushed
1,
things.
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then I'm getting there.
Okay, we're doing it.
Give
We're
me a
doing it.
second. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. we got it. We got it. We got it.
This
Oh,
is-
we got it. Okay.
This
all
is
right.
count with Josh time. All right.
So very professional. You try doing this at home, okay?
It's a lot. It's
all
a
right.
lot.
Okay. Now we are gonna see what these babies can do. Okay. Here
Now
we
there is a difference, a small difference in resolution between. We didn't downsample these; they're just a native resolution,
Yeah. All right. Here we go.
and it's still processing. Oh, I'm on.
well, why is your computer so slow, dude?
It's Lightroom. Okay,
Okay.
there we go.
We're ready.
And how many stops is this?
This is the most. So
The most?
4 stops. Yeah.
Okay. Can you pull up the develop tab real quick?
Can I see that with in the compare view?
No, but I just want to show them under the basic tab.
Oh, we're getting this helpful.
That's great. Okay. Okay, so you'll see there.
Oh,
This
3.
was
Okay.
3 stops.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. That's a good start.
Let's go over here.
Show them this.
Ready.
We're ready. Thank you for your patience, Dave. Yeah, David,
Thank
you
you.
do the talking.
Okay, so what you see here is this is my standard preset for the SL2. This is SL2, right? Or SL3?
I'm not sure.
Did I?
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Whatever.
Wait. We'll get it.
Well, you can look by the pixel density, 9520. It's the SL3.
Okay, SL3. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's not what I want.
the one at the bottom.
There,
camera and lens, second to last.
That's good. That's good. It's all the same one.
Okay.
Sorry. Carry on.
Okay, so this is SL3. It's pushed 3 stops in addition to the base processing, and it's super clean. I mean,
ISO 200.
this is ISO 200. I have no complaints. If you look at the shadows, really clean. Go up to any of these areas that were problematic. Look at the blues.
Yeah.
Super clean. The bluish blacks behind the bag, super clean. Let's go up. Yeah, look at the
That looks good. Yeah.
Everything looks great. So this is a file that's pushed 3 stops. And I said, okay, well, now how does it compare to the SL2? Let's take a look at that. So this is going to be, there you go. Now it's easy to see which is SL2.
Yeah. Let's go back to the center.
Yep. Okay, so as we go here, it's fine. You know, I'm kind of used to this. You're going to pick up a little bit of noise.
Well,
Scroll
quite a bit more noise
quite a
on the
bit more.
SL2. Yeah.
Let's go over there.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the trouble. This is the trouble area.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can see we're picking up and creating a fair amount of noise in the shadow. And this is at ISO 200, but pushed 3 stops. And this is about the limit of where I would push my SL2 files, which is still a considerable amount,
Yeah.
but it doesn't come without a cost. Now, I look at the SL3 file and I say, or maybe it doesn't have to come at a cost.
Yeah.
This is pretty great. So I tasked Josh, and everyone hopefully had a good look at this. If you come back to us here while he
What do you want to see next?
pulls up the higher things.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I said, wow, the results are really interesting, Josh. Would you be willing to shoot another test sequence?
You want 16, 32, or 64?
And
32?
32.
Okay. I got you.
And I said, that's at low ISO. I know already that the SL2 doesn't push really well when we get into the 1600, 3200, 6400 range. You got to really be tight on your exposure. You got to be really close. And this is problematic because anytime I go out and shoot, let's say, Milky Way photography, astrophotography, or Northern Lights, you're shooting at 1600, 3200, and 6400. That's just how it works. In order to get the proper exposure so that you don't get star trails and that are moving.
This is.
I know.
That sounds really obvious. Okay.
Well, don't go to 4 stops.
Oh,
go to,
okay.
go to something less.
Well, maybe 3 stops?
Yeah, or 2 to start.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say, you're shooting the Northern Lights and it's not a full moon and you still want to bring up a foreground. I mean, things can get pretty messy pretty fast. So you end up just crushing the blacks to try to preserve and just block up the shadows and pretend they're not there. But what if there was a different way? So let's take a look at the computer.
There we go.
Now this is 3200 pushed how far?
This is 2 stops.
Okay, 3200 ISO on both the SL3.
Let me just make sure this is 2 stops. Yes,
2 stops.
2 stops. Confirmed.
Okay. SL3 and SL2. Now the SL2, let's scroll away from the middle here.
Go to our.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh boy.
All right,
Okay.
things are getting, again, to the point of limits. I wouldn't, and there's a reason, and Josh is going to bring these up after. Bring this up at 3 stops now.
Okay.
And let's move.
It's
reverse them.
Yeah.
There we go. Now bring it away from the center. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Okay, so this is where things just start turning to mush on the SL2. So 3 stops at 3200 ISO, not great. And let's just go one further.
Just because.
Just
Oh
because
boy. Now we're getting real brave.
you're not going to like this
We're getting
one.
real brave now.
You're not going to like it.
Oh boy.
Okay, we've now hit a wall. This is what's known as a wall. You'll notice all the color saturation is gone, and that's just a hot mess. I'm not saying that the SL3 is perfect at this. And in fact, probably I would do a bit more processing. But the reality is, I just bumped the exposure slider to see what would happen.
Right. This is just a torture test, simply designed to demonstrate the dynamic range and noise improvements of the SL3 over the SL2. Simple as that. We're not suggesting that you go out and start shooting ISO 3200 4 stops under. We're not saying that. What we're saying,
Oh no, I'm saying that.
David's saying that. But what David is demonstrating through this test is just the increased capabilities of the SL3's sensor to be pushed, because that is the perfect demonstration of inherent dynamic range in the sensor.
Yes, at least as we get to higher ISO. So let's pull back to us here. So
Back to us. Thank you.
So I think with additional processing, and I didn't address color shifting. So for instance, the SL3 files look a little blue versus what they should look. Again, all of that is entirely fixable and tweakable. If I had a great astro shot and I wanted to take the time to do it, I would do it. Here, I really just, like Josh said, this is a torture test.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take previously processed files at those ISO ranges, so they looked good at proper exposure, and then just +1, +2, +3, +4 EV and see what happens.
Yeah. So just to get to the takeaways, because I want to get to the next
Yeah.
segment for you, which is your time to shine. Takeaways. Number 1, the SL3 is better in low light, better high ISO. I'm not going to say this is a surprise, but a lot of people asked.
Yeah.
So we did the testing. We didn't just assume. SL3 is better in low light than both the SL2 and the SL2S. SL3 shooting in LDNG and downsizing is better than shooting in MDNG if your objective is just to have a 36 megapixel file.
Yes.
The SL3 has considerably more malleability in the files thanks to its increased dynamic range,
Yes.
both at low ISO and high ISO. And the SL3 sensor is really, really good, which, as David mentioned already, is not a surprise because we know this sensor in both the Q3, the M11, M11P, M11 Monochrom.
Exactly.
So no major earth-shattering surprises here, but we got a lot of questions about high ISO performance, so hopefully that addressed it. If there's additional questions, just ask. Before we get to your segment, maybe Jose should
Yeah.
bring up
More
some
questions. Let's
yeah.
do.
Yeah,
All right.
that was fun.
That was a lot.
That was a lot, I know, but you could go back and watch this at 0.5x speed if you want.
Yeah. All right. Is it possible that autofocus single is contact detection and autofocus continuous is face detection?
Yeah, it's possible. Probably, but I don't know. I maybe.
We don't know.
We don't know. But we're going to do more testing on that because I just could only use so much. It was rainy, so I couldn't go shoot outside.
It's been like torrential the last few days.
All right.
Next.
Wondering how fast the TO lenses focus with the SL3. Less mass to move
Yeah.
will breathe some new life into these gray lenses.
Did you test it?
I did. It's the same speed on the SL3 and on the SL2. The 3514 is super fast, 18 super fast. The 60 is slower. The 11 to 23 is fast. They vary. Some of them are faster than the others, but if you liked them on the SL2, they're just as nice on the SL3.
And higher megapixels.
Well, that's the other huge advantage is the increased resolution.
26.
Exactly. Very usable resolution with the TL lenses.
All right. What do you guys think about the Leica looks for the SL3?
Have you played with those?
I haven't played with them because those are JPEGs and
Jose, have you played with those?
I have not played with those.
All right, so we don't have an opinion yet. There we go.
well, it's the same Leica looks, except they introduced one additional look for the SL3, which is called
The new one?
it's like Epic or something.
Eternal,
yes.
yeah.
Eternal. Ooh. It's just not how I photograph, so I don't feel qualified.
Because we haven't used them, so we're not going to say anything good or bad because we have not used them. But we will try. Next question.
Okay. How does the Lowlight compare to the M11 Monochrom?
Not as good.
Not as good, yeah. If you watch our M11 Monochrom episode, I compared it against the M11, which has the same basic sensor as the SL3, so that will be a good analog, no pun intended, comparison of how the SL3 would compare to the M11 Monochrom.
Exactly. But suffice it to say, because of the lack of per pixel gain and because of the lack of interpolation, bottom line is you're looking at a 1.5 to 2 stop real world ISO advantage for the M11 Monochrom versus the M11 or the SL3.
Well said.
And no, we have no idea if Leica is going to do an SL3 Monochrom.
Don't ask. We don't know.
Don't ask. I could feel it in the comments already without even looking.
All right, what's next?
You guys touched on this, but what about dynamic range? I'm guessing compared to SL2, SL2S.
It's slightly better.
Slightly better. It's not earth-shatteringly better, but it's better. SL2 is already pretty darn good, so. Yeah.
Yep. Will there be a comparison and discussion between SL3, M11, and Q3 for those who are considering purchasing one of these cameras for backup?
Not with regard to image quality, ultimately because those three cameras are so fundamentally different that the decision you would be making would not be based around imaging performance.
No.
It would be based around the features that you need, like trying to decide between a golf cart, a sports car, and a pickup truck.
Well, if all those things had the same engine.
Which could be a thing, actually, yes.
Right.
So, you have to, without getting into this too deep, it's just a matter of deciding, looking at the feature sets, the compromises, the availability, the functionality.
Well, let's look at it this way.
Yes.
I think here's a good car analogy since you made a car analogy.
Okay.
It's all fair game now.
Okay.
Let's say you have, I don't know, a BMW 4 Series or 5, I don't know. Or
You're
4
rambling.
I'm rambling.
Okay.
Okay. If you have the same powertrain and the same chassis, but you have a 2-door, a coupe, and you have a 4-door, right? They're fundamentally the same performance car, but they are functionally different cars, right? Yeah. One is a 2-door, one is a 4-door, and let's pretend that they also have a wagon, or for those in Germany, a Kombi, right? Okay, so now you have a 2-door, 4-door, and a wagon. All three fundamentally different types of cars that are suited to different things that have the same engine. That's how I look at the SL3, the Q3, and the M11. They are all going to give almost identical imaging performance. What they're going to give differently, though, is that user experience. An M is purely manual. It's very, very different. A rangefinder fundamentally is different than an autofocus camera. And then a Q3, you can't take the lens off. It's fixed at 28 millimeter. It's extremely light, extremely easy to use, very quick, very quiet, right? But it's not the same thing as either an M11 or an SL3. So what is it? I mean, now I'm just going to fall back on an episode that we did not that long ago.
Yeah.
It still depends. It depends what you're looking for in a camera.
Someone asked a question that I just did not have time to test. I had heard, I think from Hari, that the 50 Summilux SL performs a lot better on the SL3, autofocus-wise. I have not tested that yet. It's on my list. I just ran out of time. James, thank you for asking that question. I will test it. We will eventually do more SL3 content, and I will tell you. I promise.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious. I just ran out of time. What else, Jose? Sorry.
Okay. Are the low light qualities you found in the SL3 also seen in the Q3?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like we've answered this question a few different ways, but
yes,
those three cameras have effectively the same sensor. So in an exact scenario where they have the same lens and the same setting, they're going to perform similar enough that you're not going to see an appreciable difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Can you tether the SL3 to Apple Vision Pro?
I don't know.
No.
I'll tell you what. buy me an Apple Vision Pro, send it to me, 372 Miracle Mile, Coral Gables, Florida. I will do you the service of testing it with the SL3.
And it will only cost you an Apple Vision Pro as a commission.
Consider it a donation
In
to,
kind,
to the clutter of Josh's office. That's all.
The answer is you can. Okay, I have a real answer instead of a snarky Josh answer
Oh, no fun.
because I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
You can tether it to a MacBook Pro, to the Capture One or Lightroom. You can screen mirror in an Apple Vision Pro from a MacBook Pro. Therefore, yes, you can at least see the interface of Capture One or Lightroom as it's capturing, and because it has that increased tethering speed, it transfers a raw file in less than 1 second.
You know, we're getting so many questions about SL3 versus Q3 versus M11 that I guess I'm just going to have to do a test at some point. Remember, they're different. The lenses are different.
Maybe we need to do a whole episode on it.
Camera processing is slightly different. They're not going to be exactly the same, but the cameras are so fundamentally different in every other way
Yes.
that I just don't feel like I'm going to be in a situation where I have all three around my neck, all with a 28mm lens, and I go,
Don't kid yourself. Of course you will.
okay, fine. I would do that. Most people would not do that and say, okay, let me grab the SL3 for this 28 shot and the Q3 for this 28 shot. I don't think that's going to happen.
Now, in fairness,
Yes.
I am going to own up to this. I have, for a long time, mainly shot with an SL2 and used a Q2 monochrome as a second camera. And I have shot simultaneously.
That's different. Well, one's a monochrome camera. That's totally fine.
But let's just pretend it's not. Let's pretend it was a Q3.
Okay.
And a Q3 is going to give me a 28-1.7, and let's say I have a 24-90 on my SL3. Let's pretend it's a Q3 and an SL3. I would have a 24-90, which is a 2.8 to f4, versus having a 28 1.7. I can fundamentally get different pictures.
Well, that I understand. What I'm saying is I'm not going to have an SL3 with a
same
28
lens, no.
lens and a Q2 with a 28 or Q3 with 28. And I'm not going to do that.
No, but I could see where there would be some synergy.
But let's not get too hung up on this. We have more questions to answer. Go.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Would it ever be possible to have dual stabilization with the sensor and the lens when using the 24-90 so you can select one or the other, but not both?
I mean, it uses both. You
uses
just can't choose which one it's using. But it does use the stabilization in the lens as well.
It gives you an effective, say, one-stop boost performance-wise.
Yeah.
And again, there's some secret sauce going on in there as to when it uses the lens stabilization, when it uses the sensor stabilization, and when it uses both. It's sort of that similar situation that we're facing with the autofocus. We're not quite sure what's going on under the hood, just that it works.
There you go.
Okay.
Thanks.
Going back to the question of the files compared to the Q3 files, if you have a photo of each in Lightroom made in the same conditions, is it possible to use the same editing process on both?
No, because the lens is going to be different. So the way that the lens renders is going to be different for each one. So
About the color response and
well, the image you get is a result of the light rays hitting the lens, going through the lens, and hitting the sensor. If the lens was exactly the same, yeah, they would be the same. But because the lens on the Q3 is different, now you could put the same lens on an SL3 and an M11 and do that test, but you could never get it to match with the Q3 because it's a different lens.
All right. Does the lighter, smaller body feel well balanced with the current lens line? I'm curious if it feels slightly more front heavy with some of the larger lenses.
no, it feels good.
No, I'm not. It's only 70 grams. I have not noticed.
This is 24-90, which is as heavy as it gets, and it doesn't.
But I wouldn't be so. I don't want to answer that question for everyone all the time. I think if you have concerns about SL2 or SL3 or any camera, you need to go and pick one up. But for me, it's been fine.
Well, and I can definitely tell that the camera still has a really good balance point with this. This is the lens, and this is the setup I use most of the time, and it feels really good. If anything, I feel like it's a little bit short here. I often
Put that on.
Yeah, if you put that grip on, it changes the balance. But I often use L brackets on my cameras anyway, which would add that additional.
Well, apparently Really Red Stuff said, I wasn't going to bring this up, but now I am.
Please.
Apparently Really Red, somebody told me, now I'm forgetting who it was, I'm sorry. John, maybe?
Okay.
Anyway, that Really Red Stuff said they're not going to make an SL3
Come on,
bracket.
I don't believe it.
Unless there's enough response. And I said I wasn't going to say anything because we don't sell their stuff, but now I am. So
Okay, so everybody write angry emails to Really Red Stuff because I want an L bracket.
Yeah.
There. Really?
I wasn't going to say anything, but
Wow.
yeah, I caved.
Wow.
I caved.
Okay.
All right. Running out of time here.
We have a few more.
Well, we should do the questions though, because that's all.
We're not running out of time. We're running.
Well, I know we started late, but we can't end at two in the morning.
Not 2 in the morning. no.
Okay.
All right, let's see. According to your point of view, is this the flagship camera of Leica that does everything photo and video wise, or should videographers wait for a possible SL3S?
Kind of. Yes, maybe, sort of. So I think that, we did all our image testing, and I think for a still camera solution, for sure, the SL3 makes infinity sense going from an SL2 to an SL3 for still photography. For video, I'm not 100% sold yet. We are still using 3 SL2Ss in our studio here, 1 there and 1 up here, 2 up here. I'm not in a big rush to change those over just yet. One of the reasons is because you actually don't get full frame. You don't get full 35 millimeter full frame in 4K, which is what we use. It's something like a 1.2 crop or something like that. For me, that would change the whole nature of how we actually record. We'd have to change focal length choices, all this stuff. I think that 8K for me is not worth it. We do 4K work. Most people do 4K work. I'm still inclined, if someone came to me and they said, okay, I'm looking for a video system, I'm looking at the SL, despite the time code input, despite the new interface, which is really cool for video, I'd say probably as long as your workflow is 4K, I would stick to an SL2S for the time being. Will Leica come out with another SL3 based camera that's better for video? Historically,
Yeah. Well, they've only done an S model once.
they've done one before.
Your guess is as good as ours because we do not know. Time will tell.
We don't know. But for now, or it could also be that we might see firmware updates that make the SL3 more capable for video than it is today.
Very true.
So either we'll see hardware, maybe, or we'll see software, maybe. But as it stands now, I think the SL3 primarily for me is a still photography tool. The SL2S still remains, again, for me, the best video tool. But oh my gosh, thank goodness, I just have to say this out loud. This right here has breathed new life.
Yes.
Has breathed new life into our SL2Ss in our studio. No more changing batteries.
I definitely appreciate that. So
What is it, David? Tell them.
Oh, this is the,
Give them the overhead.
yeah, here's the overhead view. This is the
DC coupler.
DC coupler, but it's a little hollow battery. This goes in the camera. So it replaces the regular battery, less like this, and get a little tail. And you plug in your, why is that around that
I
lens?
don't know.
Oh,
What are you doing?
Oh.
I'm making a mess. Okay.
breaking things.
And this plugs in here, USB-C to a USB-C power input. And now magically the camera is powered all the time. We learned some important lessons today. When we changed over the studio cameras to the DC coupler from just going into the side USB-C port. Prior to the changeover, I was using USB-A to USB-C power cables. Well, you should know those don't work. We use the highest capacity QC 3.0 chargers that I had, which are like the Quick Charge 3.0 standard for your phone and things like that. That is not enough power to power the DC coupler and power the camera, whether it's an SL2, SL2S, or SL3. We tried all 3. You need to use a USB-C power brick that is at least 27 watts. And you need to use a USB-C to USB-C cable, not a USB-A to USB-C cable.
We don't have another USB-C adapter close to us right now, do we? To try something?
What do you want to try?
Well, I just want to confirm that it works in the Q2, the Q3, and we know it works in the SL2 and the SL2S. I don't have a Q2 handy to try that with.
No.
So we'll get back to you on that. I forgot to mention another important thing that's going on.
Yes, you did.
In April 18th, April 18th, the single most amazing thing of 2024 is happening, which is
I'm going to be in Patagonia.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I am giving a presentation at the Leica Society International Spring Shoot in Nashville, Tennessee. Now,
Go to the computer.
the Spring Shoot is one of the coolest events of the year. If you've not heard of LSI, it is the best Leica organization on the planet. Their meets are a ton of fun. And this one is in Nashville. It is April 18th through the 20th. And I am giving a talk. You can see, look at, there I am right there. There I am, Josh Lehrer. And then my little talk summary is right here. It's all about getting your money's worth. I'll be doing a lot of yelling. There will be props. There may be some fire. I don't know. The event is sold out, but you can get on a waiting list if you email info@leicasocietyinternational.org. If you're interested in going, get on that waiting list because inevitably somebody will cancel. So if you can't make this one, come to the next one, which is, I believe in LA, I think, in the fall. So anyway, shout out to LSI for being awesome and for somehow allowing me to go there and giving me a stage and an open microphone. Because
And making
Can't
sure to
believe that.
schedule it when I was leading a workshop.
I'm actually, and I'm the first presentation of the event. So
Wow.
you come early, bring cookies, and it's going to be awesome. So hopefully I will see you in Nashville. Okay. What else are we?
Well, you're going to have a cardboard cutout of me or something?
I already have one of those, so I'll just.
Well, to throw darts at, right?
Yeah. I have it's a travel size one. It goes in my carry-on. That's great. Yeah, I just roll it up. It's like, what's that, sir? Oh, it's my co-host. My portable co-host.
Yeah, I am very sorry that I'm not going to be there, but of course,
Peter will be there.
Peter will be there,
Yeah.
so he's better than I am.
At some things, yes.
Yes, for sure.
All right, what else we got? And then I want to get David the floor for a little bit.
Okay.
I would say just the last question that I have for now here is I've seen a couple of questions regarding availability of the SL3.
Well, it's a little bit deceptive because the camera launched on March 7th and all the stores and dealers got deliveries of cameras. And so some people got some and everyone's like, yay. But remember, Leica had months to make that first batch. So that's it. Those cameras are gone now. So I don't know when more are coming. I'm sure it will be dribs and drabs, but this is the reality of a new camera. It happens. It's been happening for as long as I've been in this business.
I mean, as we say,
yeah.
everybody wants a handmade, made in Germany product, but waiting for one is terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been the way with every single major product launch for as long as we can remember. But it gets better. There was a time when you couldn't get an SL2.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
there
I
was a
remember
long
that.
time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Couldn't get an SL2.
Q2 was back ordered for like 3 years on and off.
Yeah. So this too shall pass. They will become available. But to Josh's point, if you don't believe us, find someone who said, "Oh, I got an SL3." Ask them to check the box. It has a manufacturing date on the barcode label. Look at what the manufacturer date
They've
is.
been making them for a bit. So one day we'll come on this channel and say SL3s are in stock, but not yet. Sorry. Such is life. Okay. I want to
Pre-orders
end
are
it.
free, by the way. You don't have
What?
to. Our pre-orders are free. I mean, it's just
That is true. Well, right. I should mention that. Yeah, it is free to pre-order with Leica Store Miami. Jose can drop a link to the pre-order form in the chat if you want to get on.
I actually have it
waiting list.
in the video description.
Yeah, even better.
Yep. I have a way to pre-order and also just links to SL products in general, but specifically the SL3 Preorder,
Yes.
which costs nothing and takes 30 seconds to fill out, just your name and contact information. And it's better to be on the list and be alerted than wait and try your luck.
So true.
Because we don't play any games. It's just we look at the date and the time, and that's that.
That's it.
And I should mention, listen, if you love what we do here and the service that we provide to the community, that is awesome. And of course, you can always throw us the old thumbs up, and you can subscribe to Red Dot Forum, which I will ask you to do later. But if you're not already subscribed. But you can also support the channel by making your Leica purchases at Leica Store Miami, because that funds all this.
That's right.
Believe me, it's not YouTube advertising, because
It's not.
no, that just pays for our dinner.
Okay.
Sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes Josh goes hungry. Jose always goes hungry.
Passing out.
Always.
So basically, if you want to support us, you can do so. Obviously, Leica Store Miami's got a great reputation.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here.
We're
We
here.
got it.
And we have Enzo.
And we have Enzo, who's under the table, passed out as usual. Yeah, he's very sleepy.
All right.
Okay,
Public
okay.
service message aside.
So
what do we have
let's
next?
end with this. David, what I would like you to show us are, maybe you could start with a reset fresh camera, SL3, and take us through a handful of the key settings that you change from default, sort of the day one out of the box changes that you make to the SL3. Again, this is not going to be, we only have a few minutes, so this is not going to be a comprehensive overview. We will eventually do an SL3 menu episode. Did you put a dead battery in there?
Nope,
Okay.
there it is.
Okay. So what I just want to have you do
I'm going to do a reset while you're talking.
Yeah, David's going to just reset the SL3, and this will be a great couple-minute long reference guide for anyone who just gets an SL3 or is just sort of curious what those day one settings should be. David will just kind of go through the menu and take you through that stuff.
Okay.
He's resetting the camera as we speak.
And you can see it right there. See, it says, please restart the camera, because I just did a full reset. If you don't know how to do that, it's in the camera information menu. Okay, turning the camera on. Do we get our cool animation? I think we do. Yes,
do. That is worth the price of the reset.
Oh, it's great. I love. How cool is that? Look, it's a tilt screen. It's an SL3. Boom, we did it. Okay. So we're going to set this up in English. We are not going to do the Photos app right now. Do I wish to cancel? Yes. We're going to skip the time setting for now. So a couple things that I want to do just right off the... How come we keep talking about lens caps here? But we don't have any. It's fine.
Okay, you're going to be in the menu anyway.
Yeah, so right off the bat, if I go here, first of all, for me, now this isn't for everybody, but for me, let's say I'm going to use this for primarily for landscape photography or even just out and about shooting, I probably will set this up as manual focus, which defaults to back button autofocus. Now,
well,
it will when I make that change. But I can also feel very confident, just like I did with the Q3, the intelligent autofocus works remarkably well. And just to kind of reiterate what IAF is basically it's like single autofocus. And if a subject moves, it switches to continuous to track that subject that's locked in. So it's sort of a hybrid autofocus approach. And then autofocus mode, again, if I'm shooting this in landscape, I'm going to use field. Otherwise, I am just going to use eye face body detection because it's amazing if I'm shooting people and just things. So I love that. And here you can change all the things. Let's see, not touch it. Let me just go to basic things. Exposure metering is another one that I change. And I'm going to go from multi-field to highlight weighted, which is my favorite. Love highlight weighted settings. I'm going to change my auto ISO setups. And here, as you already saw, this camera is amazing. So I'm going to go to ISO 12,500 as my kind of default auto ISO setting. And I'm going to set that shutter speed limit to 500th of a second. Because when you have something that's so clean in terms of ISO performance, I would much rather have a really sharp picture. Again, for movement. This is not necessarily what I would use for landscape, but just general shooting. And I don't bother with that. Floating ISO is on. And I do like thirds. Okay, the other thing is I'm going to switch from auto white balance to daylight. I'm a big proponent of that for general use, unless say it's nighttime, because most of my shooting, I prefer having a set daylight white balance. It's just how I shoot. And let's see, what else do we want to change here? All that is set. Okay, under customized controls, we're going to set up exposure mode for aperture priority, which is how I shoot. And I actually do like how the camera comes set up, which is the thumb wheel is going to be your aperture. The right dial up here is going to be exposure compensation, and the left dial is ISO, which I think is perfect. So I wouldn't change that at all. And someone asked earlier how you could lock the dial so you don't change it. It's that right there, which is dial lock. That just disabled all the dials. But it can be a little annoying if you don't know what you just did. And then, as Josh pointed out, the default behavior for manual focus mode is magnification for the joystick button. So I am going to change that as well to AFS.
Yeah, this used to be the default setting, or this is the default setting on the SL2 and all the previous cameras.
But it's changed.
I don't know why they changed it, but just be aware that you have to go to customize control, go to joystick, and change MF mode to AFS if you want to switch the camera to MF and then use the joystick for back button autofocus.
Yep. And I will also, not right now, but I will also set up my info profiles. Oh, actually, I'll just set up a basic one. So I'll leave my info bars on. I'll set 6x4 grids. I love my clipping, so I will set that on. And I do not like focus peaking, and level gauge as well. That'll be number 1. And then profile number 2, I will generally turn off the bars, which they already are, and I will leave the grid on. I will leave the clipping on and leave that on. So that's basically the same exact profile, but without the info bars. So it's clean. And then profile number 3, I'm going to make entirely clean. So I'll turn off all the info bars. I'll turn off the grid. I'll actually turn off the clipping, turn off the focus peaking, turn off everything. So what that gives me, I'm going to just show, this is my main display. Can we do that? Nope. I need something. That's okay. I'll use my hand.
Okay.
Apparently. No, I'll just underexpose. Here we go. So this is going to give me basically my busy interface. Hit function again. That's going to give me just a clean composition. Although if you half press, you can actually get exposure settings. And then if you press again, I'm going to have this. I didn't turn off the right ones. This will be the clean version. So let me fix that. So under profile 3, I'm going to turn off. They are off.
No, those are the touch buttons. They're somewhere else. Yeah.
They are.
New features.
New features.
I love it.
Yeah, love that. Oh, no, that was the wrong profile. Here we go. Info bars. Off.
There we go.
There. Okay, so now everything is off. So I like just super, super clean to check my composition where everything is off. And that gives me a primary, kind of a busy, clean, but for composition and straight lines, and then just check everything. But everybody's different. So that's why you can easily customize these. I love the new menu interface of where capture assistants are. And then we also want to change our...
Well, you'll go back.
Oh, you want something?
I turn off group display mode. Group display mode, if you shoot a burst, it combines the burst images into like a movie. So it's actually really hard to see the individual images in the burst. So I always turn off group display mode. That was a holdover from the original Q. I don't know why they put it down here as on by default, but I
just don't shoot bursts, so...
Yeah, well, I always recommend turning that off because it's very annoying.
Perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to change the power saving as well. So we're going to set this, again, to 30 seconds, which is where I recommend it. And that's... I should change the date to be today, but that's about it. So that's my basic things. And then on the rear screen, some things I won't change. So for instance, the JPEG resolution, I don't need this. And I would change this, say, to self-timer, right? So now I have quick access to self-timer in the control screen. So I have my image mode, although I'm going to change that anyway to aperture priority. There we go. Okay. So we have control over the focus mode right here, so I can easily switch back to MF. We have our iFace body, which I can change to field. Very, very easy. I've got my self-timer, which I do use a lot. The exposure metering, single frame. This is connect to the Photos app, and then I've got my white balance. So this is pretty well set up how I would use it for general walkabout and landscape photography. Yeah. Kind of at a high level.
Right. We're obviously going to eventually do an SL3 menu episode, so we'll do a deep dive into the menu. I just wanted David to give everybody a very quick overview. It's getting late, so let's take a couple questions and then we'll call it a night.
Yes.
Jose, what do you got for us?
All right.
Oh.
Let's see. Can you use a Type B card in a reader?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they are physically different sizes.
There you go.
All right.
But I'm not an expert on it.
Do you think they will add the new autofocus features from the SL3 onto the Q3?
I don't know.
Possibly.
We'll see it with firmware, but who knows for sure. I hope so. Be cool.
I mean, the Q3 already has really good eye face body detection. They share a lot of the same technology, and they do both use the same sensor roughly and the same Maestro 4 image processor family.
Okay.
Cool.
Is the phase detect autofocus quick enough for moving birds or motorsports?
I haven't tried shooting that stuff yet, so remains to be seen. But as we've said before, the biggest area that Leica's autofocus is lacking is high-speed action photography. Even Leica themselves would admit that. You know, they've come a long way since the original SL601, which was borderline unusable for tracking.
Yes. I remember when we
still got a
first
ways to
looked
go,
at it.
but, you know, Leica doesn't do everything better than everyone else. They know what they're good at, and they know where their deficiencies are. So I certainly accept that. And
For sure.
I still have a lot of testing to do for the SL3's tracking focus. So we will probably do an episode about something like that. We've sort of talked about, but not yet.
Cool. Can you explain what focus peaking is?
Sure, it's when you are really focused and you just kind of take a quick peek.
I knew it was coming.
No, focus peaking is, like it calls it, edge detection. It's essentially looking for the areas of highest contrast that are an edge. It's not a perfect solution, but it's effectively supposed to make it easier to achieve focus manually by highlighting the in-focus areas in a color of your choice, red by default. But it is not perfect. David and I both find it just gets in our way. We just prefer to use the magnification function to dial in precise focus.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Let me see. I like to see if you can customize the rear thumb wheel to something other than photo modes.
You can.
You can.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed that on the SL2 actually as well.
And then specifically the thumb wheel button.
Yeah, you have to go into the camera controls.
He's getting there. Oh,
I'm getting there. Oh, sorry.
customize control, right?
Yeah. So dials. So
Although maybe
there is a way.
not. Wait a minute. Maybe
Function, oh no, it's function button here. So isn't it?
well, no.
These are the assignable.
Am I losing my mind? Wait a minute. On the SL2, hold on. Here we go. This is how you know it's getting late. You can press and hold the thumbnail button to change the
Oh
function.
yeah, here, look, thumb dial. Look.
No,
Yeah,
that's the.
No, that's the behavior for turning.
Yeah,
but-
I don't think you can change it on the SL3. I think they eliminated that ability to do so, which is interesting. I didn't notice that until just now. I probably noticed it but didn't think about it. But yeah, on the SL2 with firmware 6.0, you can press and hold the thumb dial and change the function of that button. You cannot do it on the SL3, which
currently.
I'm not going to say is a deal breaker for me personally because I always use it for shooting modes, but I certainly wouldn't mind additional functionality. So we need to bring that up. With that.
Yeah, I think the reason given, because there was some discussion around this, which is because there's now an assignable dial on the top, most people were using this control right here, which defaulted to it, but most people were using this for ISO control. So you would click this, then use the wheel to adjust ISO. Now you have a set ISO dial, and you don't need to use this. So now you have a free function button on top. And some people were erroneously changing their exposure mode when they thought they were activating their custom function.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think it was done on purpose, and maybe to eliminate that misuse behavior.
There you go. All right, a couple more questions if we got any.
Is the magnification function back on the joystick?
I just showed it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just to clear that up.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, they fixed that in the SL3. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you say that the M11 Monochrom has better resolution than the SL3?
Well, it's the same number of pixels, but because there's no interpolation, you have a greater effective resolution because of that. Just watch the M11 Monochrom episode because, again, I compare M11 to M11 Monochrom, so you can see that difference pretty clearly.
Or read my M11 Monochrom review.
Or do both of those
Or
things.
both of those things. In fact, read the review on one screen while you have
While you watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, okay.
I think that is it.
All
Is
right.
that it?
Well,
Is that all the questions we have in the chat?
Yeah,
That's
I've been
a lot of
watching.
questions.
Just a lot of comments, a lot of chatter, which I love. I love the interactions going on here.
Okay.
A lot of people going to Nashville, which I'm pretty stoked about.
Okay.
Sign us off.
When is our next episode?
It's just before. I think it's the 15th. Hold on.
Let's check on that so we can do this.
That will be, let's look at our calendar here. I think it is the 13th. The 13th of April, as of now, is our next episode.
Oh, wow. That's like right before I go.
That's right before I go as well. I don't know when it's going to be on. And whatever we can.
I have an idea, and we have an idea,
We'll see.
but we have to see if we
We'll
can.
see. Stay tuned
get
to find
the
out
things.
about what we're going to talk about. But until then, sign us off, please.
Okay. Well, apologies for YouTube weirdness for before. If you're watching this later, nothing bad happened at all.
right.
Everything is
fine.
fine.
Everything's fine.
Nothing to see here. It was always perfect. Big thanks to Josh. He put in a ton of time taking test shots and knocking that stuff out to really dive into the details here. Big thanks to Jose for keeping all the cameras in check and keeping the chat under control. And yeah, thanks to me for processing all those images.
For once, okay?
Yes.
For once. Thank you, David.
Yes, and thank you to all of you for tuning in on your Saturday night. We know you have.
They don't have anything
no,
better
they have
to
nothing
do.
better
Come
to do than
on.
this.
We're the best thing you could be doing on a Saturday night.
Absolutely. And if you're not watching us on our Saturday night, enjoy us whenever, because you can watch all the Red Dot Forum Camera Talk episodes in our archive. We have 75 plus episodes on everything Leica related. You can check out our channel and look at the playlist. We have a Red Dot Forum Camera Talk playlist, and you can look at all the topics that we've talked about. And you know, if you have trouble sleeping, we are there for you. We are there. Just put us on there. If you want to check us out also on Spotify podcast, YouTube podcast, Apple News, our great website, red.forum.com, where you can check out the latest news, reviews, tech articles, and more. Check that out. It's also great where you can pick up the presets we talk about, as well as firmware updates and all that. So we've got it all. If you're not already subscribed to Red Dot Forum, what are you doing? Click subscribe now.
Do it.
Click the notification
Do it.
bell. You got to know when we post new stuff. And I think that's everything.
That's it.
And that's everything. So thank you. We will be back on April 13th
Yes.
with another great episode, and we will see you then. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.